We live as though we are guaranteed 1,000 tomorrows, yet the truth is, none of us has ever been promised even one. And yet, when the alarm clock rings in the morning, most of us don't wake up with gratitude. We wake up with habit. We roll over, check our phones, and begin the day as if the hours ahead are just more of the same, a continuation of what we've already been through. But if you pause and consider, even for a moment, the sheer improbability of being alive right now, you'll begin to see today differently. The odds of you existing at this exact time, with this exact breath, are staggeringly small, and that means this morning wasn't ordinary. It was extraordinary. When I say every day is a gift, I'm not asking you to adopt some cliché form of optimism where you smile through struggle and ignore pain. I'm pointing to something deeper, the recognition that life itself is rare, fragile, and profoundly valuable. Psychologists call this awareness mortality salience, the reminder that our lives are finite. It may sound heavy, but research shows that people who consciously remember their own impermanence actually live with more clarity, more intention, and more joy. They stop waiting for permission. They stop postponing their lives. When you remember that today is not owed to you, you stop sleepwalking through it. Think about the way children move through the world. A child wakes up and everything feels new, exciting, alive. The sun coming through the blinds, the sound of footsteps in the hallway, even the breakfast on the table, it all has a kind of magic. Over time, as adults, we stop noticing, we stop seeing, we let wonder collapse under the weight of repetition. But the reality is, nothing has lost its magic. Only our attention has dulled. When you reclaim that attention, when you deliberately notice the details of this day, you rediscover the gift that has been here all along. Philosophers across centuries have echoed this idea. The Stoics reminded themselves every morning that life was fragile, not to depress themselves, but to sharpen their focus. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. Not what a burden, not what a chore, but a privilege. And privilege carries with it a responsibility. To recognize today as a gift is to ask yourself, how will I use it? How will I honor the fact that I was given breath this morning when so many were not? Gratitude is not passive, it's active. It's not just saying thank you to life, it's living in a way that reflects appreciation, and that means showing up fully, not half-heartedly. It means not treating today like a placeholder for tomorrow, but as the one opportunity that is actually real. Because tomorrow is only an idea. Yesterday is only a memory. Today is the only time you can touch, influence, and shape. Now here's the challenge. Our brains are wired for survival, not fulfillment. We're wired to notice threats, to dwell on what's missing, to focus on problems. This negativity bias pulls us away from appreciating the gift of the present. That's why it requires intentional practice to train your mind to notice the beauty that is already here. Simple things, pausing before you get out of bed to take one deep, conscious breath, writing down 3 things you're grateful for each morning, speaking to someone you love before diving into your inbox. These are not rituals of sentimentality. They're psychological resets that orient you toward the truth. You are alive, and that is no small thing. When you begin your day from that state of awareness, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A conversation with a colleague becomes more than just workplace chatter. It's an opportunity to connect. The work on your desk becomes more than a pile of tasks. It's evidence that you are trusted, capable, needed. Even the moments of difficulty, the stress, the obstacles, the disappointments, can be reframed as proof that you're still in the game, still here to wrestle with life. Every morning you are handed something irreplaceable, 24 hours that will never exist again. Once today is gone, it is gone forever. That truth can either terrify you or inspire you. I want you to let it inspire you. Because when you recognize the gift of today, you stop waiting to live and start living now. So tomorrow, when you open your eyes, resist the temptation to see it as just another day. It is not just another day. It is the one day you have been given, and how you use it will echo long after it's gone. Wake up knowing this. Today is a gift. And the only question that matters is what will you do with it? We grow up being told to find our purpose, as though it's some hidden treasure buried under the surface of life, waiting to be uncovered if only we search hard enough. But here's the truth most people never realize. Purpose is not something you find, it's something you create. And that distinction changes everything. The idea of finding purpose traps us in passivity. It makes us wait for clarity, for signs, for certainty before we act. It convinces us that we need to discover some grand mission before we can live fully. But purpose doesn't work like that. It isn't a destination you stumble upon one day. It's a direction you choose every single morning. It is less about what you are given and more about what you give. Psychologically, this shift is liberating. Studies on meaning and motivation reveal that purpose is not tied to specific external conditions. People in vastly different circumstances, from those building careers to those raising families, from artists to entrepreneurs to volunteers, report deep fulfillment when they consciously decide that their actions matter. The common denominator is not the situation, it's the mindset. Purpose arises when you choose to invest yourself fully into what you're doing, however ordinary it may seem. Think about the craftsman who dedicates his life to shaping wood into something beautiful, or the teacher who spends decades igniting curiosity in children, or the nurse who shows up night after night to care for patients. None of these people found their purpose on a mountaintop. They created it in the act of showing up, again and again with intention. They built it through consistency, through choosing to see meaning in the details of their work, through treating even small tasks as part of something greater. Philosophers have been pointing to this truth for centuries. Existential thinkers like Sartre argued that life has no pre-assigned meaning, that it is our responsibility to give it meaning through our choices. He said, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." That statement is not a sentence to despair, it's a call to freedom. If purpose is not handed to you, it means you are free to shape it. You are not waiting for life to tell you what matters. You are deciding what matters and then living in alignment with that decision. Now, this doesn't mean your purpose has to be monumental. We have a dangerous cultural obsession with the idea that purpose must be tied to massive success or world-changing achievement. That myth keeps people stuck because they think if their purpose isn't big enough, then it isn't real. But purpose is not about scale, it's about sincerity. If you wake up each day committed to being a source of love for your family, that is purpose. If you devote yourself to mastering a craft, that is purpose. If you choose to bring kindness into spaces that lack it, that is purpose. The significance lies not in the size of the stage, but in the depth of your commitment. And here's the paradox. When you focus less on chasing a grand purpose and more on living with purpose in the small things, the larger picture begins to emerge. Every choice compounds, every intentional act builds momentum. Over time, the direction of your life clarifies, not because you discovered a hidden truth, but because you created meaning step by step. Purpose is built brick by brick, moment by moment, in the daily practice of showing up with intention. On a psychological level, this practice has profound effects. People who approach their lives with self-created purpose report higher resilience, lower anxiety, and greater well-being. Why? Because they are not waiting for life to deliver clarity. They are generating it from within. They have shifted from passengers to drivers. Instead of asking, "What is my purpose?" they ask, "How can I bring purpose to what I am doing right now?" That small pivot in perspective is transformative. And here's the thing, you already have everything you need to create purpose. You don't need more education, more resources, or a perfect plan. You simply need to choose where to place your attention and energy. Each day offers countless opportunities to invest in your growth, to contribute to others, to embody the values you claim to care about. Purpose emerges in the doing, not in the waiting. So tomorrow, when you wake up and remember that the day itself is a gift, don't waste it searching for meaning as if it's hiding out there somewhere beyond reach. Instead, create meaning in the choices you make, the people you impact, the way you show up. Stop waiting for the lightning strike of clarity and start building the fire of intention. Because purpose is not discovered, it is designed. And the life you want is not waiting for you to find it. It is waiting for you to create it. Your purpose begins the moment you decide to live today like it matters. When people think about living with purpose, they often imagine it in terms of grand achievements. They picture the best-selling book, the billion-dollar company, the standing ovation, the history-making invention. And while those things are extraordinary, they are not the foundation of a meaningful life. The truth is far simpler. Your life is being built right now, brick by brick, through the ordinary actions you take every single day. The myth of the big moment keeps so many people paralyzed. They wait for the breakthrough, the opportunity, the one shot that will finally give their life weight. But in reality, purpose doesn't arrive fully formed in a single event. It is cultivated quietly in the countless decisions and behaviors that may seem insignificant in the moment, but accumulate over time. It's the way you treat the stranger in line at the store, the effort you put into your work even when nobody's watching, the way you respond to frustration or setbacks. These are the threads that weave together the fabric of your legacy. Psychology helps us understand this through the principle of compound effect. Small, repeated actions create exponential results, not because any one action is dramatic on its own, but because consistency turns the ordinary into something extraordinary. Think about habits. One act of discipline doesn't change your life, but discipline practiced daily builds character, resilience, and results. One act of kindness may brighten a moment, but kindness repeated daily shapes how people remember you, and, more importantly, how you experience yourself. There's also something profoundly philosophical here. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. That means who you are is not defined by your intentions or your occasional bursts of greatness. It is defined by the actions you return to, over and over. Legacy is not built in a single leap, but in the rhythm of your steps. And yet, we often dismiss the small things. We think, what difference does it make if I cut this corner, if I ignore this moment, if I wait until tomorrow? But those insignificant choices accumulate. They shape not only what your life becomes, but who you become in the process. The danger isn't in failing to achieve something big. The danger is in underestimating how the small, repeated choices you make every day sculpt your future self. Think about it like this. If you throw a pebble into a still pond, the ripples stretch far beyond the initial splash. In the same way, your daily choices send ripples into your life and into the lives of others. You may never fully see how far those ripples reach, but they matter. A kind word spoken at the right time can change the trajectory of someone's day, or even their life. A commitment to honesty in the smallest dealings shapes the integrity others come to trust in you, and your ability to persist in your commitments, even when unseen, creates a momentum that defines your character. There is also a psychological trap here worth addressing. Many people avoid small, consistent effort because it doesn't feel rewarding fast enough. Our brains are wired to crave immediate results. We want the big payoff, the clear recognition, the dramatic transformation. But fulfillment doesn't work on that timeline. Meaning builds slowly. Purpose accumulates quietly. That's why so many abandon their commitments before the results show. But if you can shift your perspective to value the process itself, to see each small action as a sacred part of your story, you'll begin to recognize that these moments are not preparation for life. They are life. Consider the people you admire most, the people whose lives leave an imprint. More often than not, their greatness is not in one spectacular achievement, but in the way they lived consistently. The parent who sacrificed daily for their family, the leader who showed integrity when nobody was watching, the artist who continued creating even when recognition was absent. They became who they were not because of one defining act, but because of thousands of small ones. This is what it means to wake up with purpose. It means understanding that the way you approach each seemingly ordinary moment is, in fact, shaping an extraordinary story. You don't need to wait for a big opportunity to matter. You are writing your legacy right now in the words you choose, the effort you give, the attitude you carry. So, if you've been waiting for your life to begin, stop waiting. It's already happening, and it is happening in the smallest of moments, the ones you are tempted to overlook. Every decision is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. Every action is a seed planted in the soil of your future. Never underestimate the power of the small, because one day you will look back and realize it was never small at all. There's a question I want you to carry with you. What would it look like to live today in a way that your future self would thank you for? Because whether we like it or not, every choice we make leaves an imprint. Every action plants a seed. And those seeds grow into the life we will eventually live. The mistake so many of us make is treating today as though it's disposable, as though it's separate from tomorrow. We convince ourselves that today doesn't really matter, that we'll start fresh tomorrow or next week or at some undefined point in the future. But the truth is, tomorrow is nothing more than the harvest of the choices you're making right now. Psychology shows us that humans are notoriously bad at connecting with their future selves. Researchers call it temporal discounting, our tendency to value immediate comfort or gratification more than long-term well-being. That's why it's so easy to skip the workout, to put off the hard conversation, to neglect the project, to delay the dream. We don't feel the cost of those choices right away, so we tell ourselves it's fine, but the cost always arrives. It simply arrives later, and when it does, it's heavier. Philosophers have long understood this tension. Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." In other words, meaning is always clearer in hindsight, but that clarity doesn't help us unless we're willing to live now with the awareness that hindsight will eventually come. One day, you will look back on this season of your life, and the question is, will you see a series of choices that honored your potential? Or will you see compromises, excuses, and delays that kept you from becoming who you were meant to be? To live today in a way that honors tomorrow is not about perfection, it's about intention. It means asking yourself, in the moments that matter, if my future self could speak to me right now, what would they want me to do? That question has the power to cut through procrastination and distraction, because it reminds you that your future self is not a stranger. They are you, and they will live with the consequences of the choices you make today. Think of the small things: choosing to read instead of scrolling, choosing to speak kindly instead of lashing out, choosing to save instead of spending impulsively, choosing to push through resistance instead of giving in. None of those choices feel monumental in isolation, but multiplied over time, they create an entirely different trajectory. They shape not just your external circumstances, but your internal character. And here's the paradox: when you live today with your future in mind, you don't actually lose the joy of the present. You deepen it, because you're not just indulging in what feels good right now. You're aligning yourself with what will feel meaningful later. There is a profound kind of freedom that comes from knowing you are not betraying your future for the sake of your present. Consider this: we admire people who demonstrate discipline, integrity, and vision, but those qualities are not innate, they are practiced. They're the result of choosing again and again to honor tomorrow in the decisions of today. The athlete who wakes up early to train, the writer who shows up at the page every morning, the parent who sacrifices for their children, the leader who resists shortcuts and builds with integrity, they all embody the same principle: the understanding that today's choices are the architecture of tomorrow's reality. Now, some people resist this idea because it feels heavy. They say, "I don't want to carry the pressure of thinking about the future all the time. I just want to enjoy the moment." But honoring tomorrow is not about living anxiously in the future. It's about living responsibly in the present. It's about recognizing that the truest form of self-respect is treating today like it matters not just for now, but for later. And the beauty of this mindset is that it compounds. When you make one choice that honors tomorrow, it strengthens your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, who builds, who grows. That identity then fuels more choices in alignment, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, your life transforms. This is how people wake up one day with a legacy, not because they stumbled into it, but because they lived daily with tomorrow in mind. So I want to leave you with this: your life is not just happening to you. You are creating it moment by moment through the choices you make today. And while you cannot control every outcome, you can control how you show up in this moment. The version of you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will either look back with gratitude or with regret. That judgment will not be based on one dramatic decision, but on the quiet, consistent way you honored or ignored the gift of each day. So live today in a way that tomorrow will look back and say, thank you,